or information session on our YouTube channel for Northwestern University. My name is Quinton Sprull. I'm Assistant Director at the university, and I'll be one of your co-presenters today. I have been a part of the admissions office for the better part of a decade, although I've been in this most recent stretch for the last year. I'm also a proud double alum, meaning that I got my bachelor's from the School of Education and Social Policy back in 2009, and in 2017 earned my master's from the School of Communication. I am joined by spanking brand new graduate, Candace. Candace, would you please give us an introduction?
Thank you, Quinton. Hi, my name is Candace LeBlanc, and as Quinton mentioned, I am a very recent graduate from Northwestern. During my time here, I was a dual degree student. I studied voice performance in the Beaton School of Music and creative writing in the College of Arts and Sciences. I'm originally from Long Beach, California, but I'm coming to you from good old Evanston, Illinois right now. And I was a part of a lot of different things during my time here on campus, but one of my favorite activities that I was a part of was our a cappella community. I was a part of a co-ed a cappella group known as the X Factors, and we got to perform every single quarter and also go on tour throughout the United States during the winter breaks.
So in a word, amazing. So the outline of today's session will go as follows. So we'll start a brief introduction. It'll go about 45 minutes long, the entire presentation. I'll sort of close out with admissions and financial aid. The first chunk of our session will talk about our academic environment, our social environment, what makes us us. We'll talk about our great location here in Evanston/Chicago. And then we'll sort of round it out for the last 10-15 minutes with some Q&A. So feel free to send those questions over to the chat section because we are looking at them. One thing I would like to mention before we actually get started is I would like to acknowledge the current state of affairs. By that, I'm referring to COVID-19 and the recent bout of social unrest and protests that have been happening across the country and across the world. I will say that Northwestern, if I can speak honestly and from a first-person perspective, it is a responsive institution. It is committed to change, it's committed to growth, and it's committed to creating access and equity and fairness across not just the Northwestern community, but in every part of the world that we touch. In the chat section, we'll be providing some links to the university's response from a number of areas, from our higher level administration, such as the president and the provost, as well as a blog from our dean of admission. So just know that we are attuned to how the current state of COVID-19, as well as what's going on as it relates to race relations in this world, how it's impacting you directly, how it's impacting your family, how it's impacting your community, and we are responding to that. We understand that you cannot isolate yourself and you're not immune from what's going on around you. And that's important to us because that helps create who you are. Speaking of who you are, let's get started with the presentation. So who are we? So we at Northwestern, we would like to start at least with letting you know who our students are. So our students, they actually represent 50 different states in over 75 different countries. All 8,000 of these students, they come with a diverse set of experiences, backgrounds, and perspectives. And that really is intentional because it helps enrich our academic environment. This diversity of thought, it's very important for us because we believe that that unique perspective actually enhances our in-classroom discussions. You learn as much from your peers as you do from your instructors. And by diversity, we mean diversity in every single sense of the word, whether that be ethnic or religious, socioeconomic diversity, political ideologies, sexual orientations and identity, you name it. All of that matters to us because it enhances our NU community and creates the sort of engagement that we really thrive on in our academic environment. Speaking of our academic environment, our school system is based on a 6-school model, which means that there's 6 individual schools in which your undergraduate learning experience takes place. From largest to smallest, that is the liberal arts school, the engineering school, the School of Communication, the School of Journalism and Integrated Marketing Communications, which is a very long name for a school that happens to be the school I started in, journalism. Our School of Music, which is our only conservatory school on campus, and our smallest school on campus, the School of Education and Social Policy. Fun fact I'd like to point out about the School of Liberal Arts and Sciences is it actually houses about 50% of our undergraduate students. So about 4,000 students are pursuing a major within that school, and it itself holds about 45 different majors to choose from. Now, while we do have a 6-school model, your learning isn't compartmentalized across that one school. In fact, Northwestern really encourages a breadth of opportunities through this academic structure so that you can take classes and even minor or even concentrate in other subject areas across the 6 schools. For instance, let's say you're taking an English class or a cognitive science class. Your class will not just be, your classmates won't just be folks who are majoring in English or majoring in science. They could be music majors, engineering majors, journalism students as well. So you're really going to be taking classes across all 6 schools. And if you like it, you can even actually pursue, as I alluded to, an area of concentration within that school. There are a number of opportunities, a number of ways you can sort of define your Northwestern path. Candace, can you give us some examples of what a Northwestern direction might look like?
Definitely. So as I mentioned before, I was a dual degree student. So I had 2 home schools, the College of Arts and Sciences and the Beaton School of Music. But I still had the opportunity to explore not only outside of my major, but also outside of those schools. So in addition to creative writing in the College of Arts and Sciences, I also took linguistics courses and ethnic studies courses. I also took 2 different types of language courses. And in the Conservatory and the Beaton School of Music, outside of just opera courses, I also took ethnomusicology courses and conducting courses. During my time here, I've also taken a radio essay course in the Medill School of Journalism. I've taken a film course in the School of Communication. And one of my most favorite classes that I've taken here was actually in the School of Education and Social Policy, known as Marriage 101, Building Loving and Lasting Relationships, in which case it was a course all about being able to build loving and lasting relationships, which who doesn't want to know that, especially as a college student? But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself and talking about my 5-year academic journey. Many of you are at the beginning of your college experience, and there's a car going by outside for me. But some of you may know exactly what you want to study. I definitely fell into that category. I knew that I wanted to study creative writing and opera, and I didn't want to have to sacrifice one as just a hobby or an extracurricular. I'm at Northwestern. That was one of the few schools that I was going to be able to study both of my passions with the same amount of academic zeal. On the other hand, some of you may not know what you want to study, and that is completely okay. Here at Northwestern, we like to call ourselves a place of discovery. So my friend Ben came to Northwestern as a chemistry major. And Ben took around 2 quarters of chemistry and realized he didn't really like chemistry. He also wasn't that good at it. So my friend Ben talked to his advisor, and she recommended cognitive science, something that was still sciencey, but also not chemistry. So Ben went on to take another 2 quarters of cog sci. At this point, he was halfway through his sophomore year, and he realized he also didn't like cog sci. He was pretty sure at this point he didn't like any kind of science, so he went to his advisor and said, "Oh my goodness, please help me. I don't know what I want to study. I'm not going to graduate on time. Please help me." And after having a pretty lengthy conversation with his advisor, he realized that the courses that he was most interested in weren't his science classes, but actually his language courses. So my friend Ben now is actually just graduated as a German studies major. Graduated on time and very happily. And I think that just goes to show how amazing our advisors and our faculty are here at Northwestern. Here at Northwestern, we have a 6-to-1 student-to-teacher ratio, which lends itself to smaller class sizes. Around 80% of courses have 20 students or fewer. And of the 2% of courses that have over 100 students, those are typically your larger introduction style courses. So think intro to psychology, intro to economics. But for any course that has even more than 40 students, the professor that teaches the normal lecture has a separate discussion section led by a teacher's assistant or TA. So you'll go, like in my case, from a 190-person Marriage 101 class to a 12-person discussion-based course in which we were able to go into the material in more depth so that we were able to have that balance. And as I mentioned before, you have a faculty advisor from the moment you step foot here on campus. If you're enrolled in the College of Arts and Sciences, your faculty advisor is also your first-year seminar professor, so you're able to get that strong relationship with them. And then from every additional specialization that you add on, you also get an additional advisor. So during my time here, I had both a creative writing advisor and an opera advisor. What's great is that these are going to be your main points of contact for figuring out what classes you want to take, what majors you want to declare, and diversity in the quarter system for the first time, which I know could be a big step for a lot of incoming students, which Quinton could talk more about the quarter system as a whole.
Yeah, so our quarter system is one of our greatest assets. So as Candace mentioned, there's a number of ways to chart your own Northwestern path. And one of the ways that we allow our students to do that, or that enables our students to do that, is our quarter system. So because of the flexibility of our quarter system, it allows you to do some of the things that Candace mentioned from her own example and some of her peers, where you can take classes in other areas. You can sort of start in one concentration and determine eventually that you're interested in something else. You might want to combine something in an interdisciplinary approach. And that really is, like, again, it's really supported by our quarter system. Your undergraduate coursework at the university would fall into three broad categories. That's your liberal arts foundation, which is achieved through your distributional requirements. So it's not a core set of courses. It's just a selection of courses, a breadth of courses, or over 4,000 courses that you can choose from that gives you the liberal arts foundation. Second is your courses that are required for your major, which are actually about, I believe, 15 courses or so that constitute a major. When I'm unsure, my voice goes really up there, but I believe it's about 15 courses that constitute your major. And then finally, the last bucket of courses that rounds out your undergraduate experience are your elective courses. Now, this might sound like a lot of schools, but again, the difference here is the quarter system divides your academic terms into 3 individual terms versus 2 distinct quarters at a semester school. So semester school, you'll be taking about 9 to 10 courses in an academic year versus at a quarter school like Northwestern, because you're taking 4 courses in each of those 3 academic terms, fall, winter, and spring, you'll be taking about 12 courses a year. So if you do the little math, that's a lot more courses you're taking, about 12 more courses you're taking. You could have the opportunity to take by the time you graduate than at a semester school. So that really leaves a lot of wiggle room to explore new areas and take some intellectual risks. So some students really go crazy with the number of things they take. They can take they can combine a number of areas and they can pursue a double major, or a major and a minor, or a major and a certificate. We call that essentially the rule of 3, where you can combine no more than 3 concentrations. So a double major and a certificate, a major and a minor, et cetera, et cetera. We have a lot of students that pursue, I believe 70% of our students actually pursue more than 1 concentration because of the flexibility that the quarter system allows. There's a number of academic programs for students to choose from, as well, as Candace mentioned. There's a number of majors for students to choose from. As I said before, the School of Arts and Sciences has over 45 different majors to choose from. Even our smallest school, the School of Education and Social Policy, has about 6 or 7 different majors to choose from, which includes learning sciences and social policy. So it's a rare combination of these top liberal arts offerings with more specialized programs like our integrated sciences program or our mathematical methods for social sciences. So that really is what really sort of makes Northwestern really pop out and creates the kind of students that we loved producing, or at least supporting in this world. So your learning, however, doesn't just stop in the classroom. It actually extends beyond the classroom in areas of research and innovation. In terms of innovation, there's a number of cross-disciplinary collaborative approaches or opportunities that focus on the undergraduate experience. One of those innovation centers that we have on campus is the Garage. The Garage we speak a lot about because it's actually our entrepreneurial hub on campus. The Garage gets its name because of the idea or the fact that a lot of the countries or the world's, well, let's do the country, and then it ended up taking off. But a lot of the country's initial sort of startups started in a garage, like Microsoft and Apple. Started in a garage, and so the garage is actually built in a parking garage. And so sometimes the building shakes, but don't worry, you're absolutely safe. But it's a hub where business leaders and entrepreneurs actually get together to develop ideas and entrepreneurial projects. So any student across the university, not just students who are majoring in economics, for instance, are able to work with the Garage to come up with business ideas that actually can become quite realized. So one of the examples that we love talking about is Brew Bike, and Brew Bike came together with a few undergraduate students who got together and decided that there wasn't enough coffee on campus. So what did they do? They decided to put together a business plan, and they decided that they could cold brew coffee and offer a few sort of cafe pastry kind of offerings on a bike. So it's such a simple idea, but their business plan and the support they received through the garage, again, one of many innovation centers on campus, allowed it to really take off and prosper. I believe Brew Bike now has locations across maybe 3 or 4 different campuses outside of Northwestern. You can check out their Instagram, Brew Bike, if you'd like to learn more about that. So again, innovation just one part of how learning extends beyond the classroom. Research is also a big component of your undergraduate experience as well, if you so choose. Candace, can you talk a little bit more about research?
Definitely. And just one more pull for Brew Bike. I actually have Brew Bike coffee in my fridge because you can order it online. I was getting kind of nostalgic during quarantine. So just to, how much we love our Brew Bike here on campus. But the first thing I'd like to mention with undergraduate research here at Northwestern is that Northwestern allocates $3.5 million every single year for just us undergrads. So that's not for faculty members or PhD candidates, that's just for us undergrads. And there's lots of different ways and shapes and forms that can take place. Most definitely there is your stereotypical STEM-based research. My friend CJ, who graduated a year ago as a biology major on the pre-med track, worked during his entire 4 years in a skin tissue lab here at Northwestern. I don't have the science background to truly explain what he was doing, but he just tells the world that he was making it a better place, and I believe him. But for me, as a heavily humanities-based major, I thought to myself, well, I'm never going to partake in research, but I actually had the opportunity to partake in research my very first year here at Northwestern. I was taking a sociology class with Professor Patillo, who I loved, and I wanted to know more about what she was working on. And she told me about a research project that she had going on in downtown Chicago. And she also told me that if I helped her out on it, I could get paid. So I said, sign me up immediately. And I got to work with Dr. Patillo for 6 months, analyzing the positive benefits of living in a Black community in Chicago. What was great about that was, yes, being able to get paid and also go to downtown Chicago, but also I was able to foster a strong relationship with that professor, even so much now that I now just graduated and I just received a text from her the other day of a sunset that she thought was very pretty. But I think my favorite research opportunity here at Northwestern is called the Circumnavigators Grant. And it's only given to one rising senior every single year. And there's 2 rules behind it. 1, the recipient of the grant must travel to at least 5 separate countries, and 2, they must be at least on 3 separate continents. And they're able to study one topic truly across the world. And I'm fortunate enough to know 2 of the recipients during my time here. My friend Hannah, 2 years ago, who is a music education and social policy double major, traveled across the world going from London to Greece to Kenya to India to New Zealand and going literally around the world in 80 days, studying how music education looks across the world and how gender plays into that. And a year ago, my friend Chris, who was a voice major and religious studies double major, traveled across the world studying how Baha'i music looks across the world, and is now actually going to continue that same research he started as an undergrad at Northwestern as a Fulbright recipient this upcoming fall. But that brings me more to international travel as a whole. Around 40% of students pursue a traditional study abroad experience, and over half of the Northwestern population has some sort of international experience. So whether that's a research abroad or something like that. Personally, I actually just studied abroad this past fall in Milan, Italy, in a music program. And what's great about studying abroad at Northwestern is that all their financial aid goes abroad with you. And as well, we have plenty of different academic advisors across all the disciplines. So whether if you are an engineer, a dance major, a international studies major, you have that opportunity to study abroad and have your credits count when you come back. So studying abroad shouldn't be a question of if you can afford it or if you're going to be able to graduate on time, but truly just a question of where. In fact, my friend Jane, who was a voice and journalism dual degree student, studied abroad during her junior year just for spring quarter because that's what worked best in her schedule. And she was interning at the Globe Theater in their marketing department. And that kind of fits into that third category of how other students are able to get international experiences through internships. But students are able to get internships a little bit closer to home. And lots of or different schools have actually internships and career experience built into the curriculum. One of the most popular ones is the Chicago Field Studies, where students are able to get a internship in the Chicago area and actually get academic credit for it. As well, there are similar programs of the School of Education and Social Policy Practicum and the journalism residency. And actually, it's very popular for people to pursue the journalism residency of taking a quarter just to work, that they can go as close as maybe the Chicago Tribune or as far as South Africa working at a magazine down there. And most of the career opportunities are brought to us Northwestern students through our Northwestern Career Advancement, which is just an office on the northern side of campus. They'll help us out whether it's helping us with our interview techniques or brushing up our resume. Back when I had 3 roommates, they actually gave me a nice room that I could have an interview in at 9 a.m. and not wake up all my roommates. And what's great about NCA is that they work with Northwestern students not only during their time here as undergraduates, but also when they become a part of our lovely alumni network, like I am now and like Quinton is.
Right. So our alumni network is another great asset of the Northwestern community. As Candace alluded to, our alumni help really support and sort of drive our career advancement office. As an alum or as a student, one of my favorite alumni connection activities was Dinner with 12 Strangers, which was an opportunity for local alum to actually host 12 undergraduate students in their home. And it was a great opportunity, one, to understand like what does Northwestern alum look like, what's possible, and how like connect with the other 8,000 students on my campus, even if it's just beginning with that dinner of 12 strangers. But it's a great opportunity again to understand what networking could look like and what the alumni network is actually what that actually looks like as well. Our alumni again they are titans across many different industries, whether that be law and policy. 2 of our alums are young alums, actually. They are deputy mayors for the city of Chicago, which I didn't even know until I watched our great commencement held, was it 7 days ago, Candace? So our alums are really taking to borrow a term, old phrase, they're taking the world by storm. But they really are titans, as I said, and across all different industries. They're leaders of SpaceX. They are late night talk show hosts. They've written, stellar novels like George R.R. Martin, who was a journalism alum, and who's given us a little preview that his most recent book, the book that he's been writing for a long time, will be longer than ever. But we're really proud of our alums, and they really help us continue to make the Northwestern community truly a community and help our students secure internships, job opportunities, et cetera. Another fun fact about our student success is actually about 96% of our undergraduates end up receiving a full-time job offer or placement within a graduate program within 6 months of graduating. And so we're pretty proud of that fact. And again, that helps, that's aided by the support of our alums. So thus far, you've learned about the flexibility of our academic system, the interdisciplinary approach that we use to really encourage our students to think outside of the box and outside of their disciplines to solve the world's problems. Research opportunities and innovation centers help really support our students in whichever areas they so choose beyond the classroom. And then our alums, again, are a huge asset for helping our students connect the dots post-graduation and while they're on campus. So speaking of on campus, Candace, can you begin the journey and give us a little taste of what life outside the classroom is like and the community cohesion that is Northwestern?
Yes, I think the first introduction to the Northwestern community is through Wildcat Welcome, which is our first year in transfer orientation. And this takes place anywhere between 7 days, or in my case, it was 10 days long before classes start. And you're in a group, a peer advising group with anywhere between 8 to 15 other students, and you're united by some commonality. So whether you're all in the same first-year seminar group, or in my case, we were all BENA non-music dual degree students. And you're all paired with a peer advisor who's just a few years older than you, also in a similar field. And this peer advisor leads you through all the different traditions here at Northwestern, whether it's marching through our Weber Arch and hearing a speech from our president, Maurice Shapiro, or running across the football field for our first home game. My class, the incoming Wildcat Welcome of 2015, actually set the record for the fastest time running across the field. I've not checked to see if anyone's beat it, but I like to think and know that we were the best at that point, and that helps me sleep at night. But also, in addition to that, whether it's painting the rock on campus or lots of different types of traditions. And so once you've made that close cohort of friends through your peer advising group, you also have where you physically live here on campus. And I know that through our YouTube channel, we have tons of different information about housing already, but I'll just begin by reiterating that we do have a 2-year on-campus living requirement, and there's lots of different ways that you're able to have a living experience, whether you want to have a live-in faculty member that you're able to have a close relationship with them. In Allison Hall, actually, the live-in faculty member there who's in the psychology department lives there with her dogs. If you also want pets, that's a possibility as well. Or if you want more specialized housing, such as a communications residential college or humanities residential college, you don't have to be specializing academically to live in these residential buildings, just have a passion for it. And in addition, there's also dining halls in the residential buildings, so you're able to really have that strong sense of family for where you're living. And in addition to the first people you meet, where you live on campus, there's also the things like Quinton mentioned, what you do after you get out of class. And many people are part of student organizations. In fact, we have over 500 student organizations. Oftentimes, if there's something that you were interested in high school, you probably already have a student organization for it, whether it's the ukulele club that plays on Lakeville on nicer days, or the happiness club that you can find in the libraries during finals week when they're open 24/7, literally throwing candy at students as they're studying. But among these 500 student organizations, if you find something that you're not interested in, or if you find something that you want to be a part of, but that's not represented, it's very easy to start your own student organization. In fact, 5 of my friends my first year wanted to start their own a cappella group, even though we had roughly, I think, 12 at the time already, because they not only wanted to sing pop music, but they also wanted to sing church hymns. So the 5 of them got together. My choir director is now their faculty advisor, and we're now a recognized student organization and a cappella group known as Tempo Tantrum. So they've gone from a motley group of 5 my first year, now 5 years later, they're at, I think, roughly 16 people. And I think that just goes to show that if you're interested in something, here at Northwestern, you're going to be able to find a strong community that's also interested in it. In addition to being in a part of the a cappella community myself, one of my favorite student organizations that I'm a part of is the Posse Foundation, which is a leader and merit-based scholarship. And I serve as a peer counselor for the incoming Posse scholars. And that part of that job is introducing those incoming students to the aspects of the city of Evanston and the city of Chicago, which also make Northwestern feel like home.
Excellent transition. By the way, I love the name Tempo Tantrums. So we've spoken about what students are doing outside the classroom in Evanston, but your Northwestern experiences isn't isolated to Evanston. Chicago is, we are proud to say, it's part of our campus as well. So your learning extends into this large city, and our location is a wonderful trifecta if you're looking for something, a great location to be a part of your college search process. We're a campus on the lake. We're within a small town, college town of Evanston. Our campus is about a mile long, and we're next to a major city. Evanston is a wonderful little town with tons of eateries. Actually, Evanston's known to be the dining capital of the North Shore, which is the part of the Chicago area that's just north of the city of Chicago. There's tons of things to do within the city of Evanston, and we provide great flexibility for you to get down to Chicago. That can be through our inter-campus shuttle, which is absolutely free for students to get on. It runs about every hour. All you have to do as a student is show your student ID, and you get downtown in about 40 minutes. Chicago is about 12 miles north of the city of Chicago. It's actually Chicago is north of the city of Chicago. Evanston's about 12 miles north of the city of Chicago. And it's actually the first suburb outside of the city. So you can get on the intercampus shuttle for absolutely free, or you can hop on the Purple Line, which is part of the Chicago Transit line. That's the train that gets you downtown also in about an hour, about $5. Another great cool thing about being a Northwestern student is that you have discounts throughout the city of Evanston and Chicago. There's free museum days, for instance. So there's so much to do in Evanston and Chicago. Candace, what's some of your favorite Chicago aspects?
I think I'm definitely a major foodie. Maybe that's just because I'm from California, but Chicago is definitely a city of neighborhoods. And so I think a big thing that I didn't know before I came to Chicago is that there's more than just the downtown area. So whether for me it's going to Edgewater and going to Flacco's Tacos, which is one of my favorite places, or hopping over and getting some fresh custard at Lickety Split. I think a lot of my memories are tied with food, but something that's a little bit more Northwestern specific. One of my favorite courses I took here at Northwestern is called the Chicago Way in the English department, taught by Bill Savage. And that course is all about literature, either based in or by Chicago authors. And at the end of that class, our professor led us around a bike tour of the entire city of Chicago. And if you know anything about Chicago, we went all the way up to Wrigleyville, all the way down to the Sox Stadium and Chinatown. It was roughly about a 3 to 4 hour bike tour in which we were able to see all the different places that we had read about. And at the very end, Bill actually paid for all of us to have burgers and fries at his favorite burger place. And for me, that's also, I guess, somehow ends up being related to food still, one of my favorite memories about Chicago.
Excellent. I'm born and raised in Chicago, so I'm still learning about Chicago. So it's just a great city to discover and dig into and to explore. And thanks, Candace, for bringing up the co-curricular opportunities as well. So there are a number of leading organizations, institutions here in the city of Chicago that our faculty and staff, our faculty and students actually have the opportunity of partnering with and engaging with. That could be the theater scene. Google has a headquarters here, as does McDonald's. I was going to say Microsoft, but that's not true. But Chicago is a great playground to support your academic experience here. So that sort of sums us up as it relates to our academic environment, research opportunities, our alumni support, and how passionate our students are outside of the classroom, socially and co-curricularly. I'd like to transition to admissions and financial aid. So we at Northwestern really pride ourselves on having a holistic admission review process. So that means that everything you do actually matters. So no one section of your application really sort of usurps the other. So that means all parts of your application, whether that be the essay, your test scores, your letters of support, such as your recommendations, it all matters. What you're doing outside of the classroom in terms of your extracurriculars, it all matters. There's 2 routes to apply to the university. One is through early decision, and that deadline is November 1st, and then regular decision, deadline is January 2nd. For early decision, that's a great route to take if you're interested in applying, if you absolutely know that Northwestern is the #1 place for you. It's called early decision because you apply earlier with that November 1 deadline, and you actually get your decision before the end of the calendar year. So it's sometime in December. And it's a perfect opportunity. I took that opportunity. If you absolutely know, you've done your research, you've had a time to engage with the campus, and you know that Northwestern's your #1 school. The reason it's a binding application route to take to, so you shouldn't take it lightly. About 50% of our applicants actually, or 50% of our incoming class actually applies to the early decision route. And the reason it's a binding route to take is because if you're accepted, you must attend the university. And so it's a great way to sort of, all right, I know I'm going to go to Northwestern. I know I know I'm a competitive applicant. I'm going to get in super confident. I'm going to cross it off, and then you're scot-free. You've settled on what school you're going to before the end of that calendar year. So that's one wonderful route to take. If that's too pressurous, let's made up that word. If that's too much pressure for you, then you can absolutely apply regular decision, which many other students do. We're looking for the same application materials, whether you're applying an early decision or regular decision. One thing to note for this upcoming academic year is that we are test optional for this upcoming year, which means that we will not require your SAT scores nor your ACT scores. If, however, you've already taken the test, or if you feel very confident in your grades, your test scores, you are welcome to submit them, but we do not require them at all. And it will not look badly on you if you choose not to submit your test scores. Given the current state of affairs with testing being less available due to COVID, we found that this was the best decision for us to, again, make make Northwestern accessible to as many students as possible who might have been, their schedule or their testing plans may have been interrupted due to some things. But again, your testing is only one part of your application. So your test scores, then we also need your academic transcripts. There is also, to backtrack for 2 seconds, you can submit your coalition application or your common application, whichever one you're more familiar with, that's the one you should submit. On both applications, there will be an opportunity for you to select how perhaps you've been affected by the pandemic or any other area. So your counselors will also be able to disclose how your academic plan has shifted for this particular academic year. Perhaps your school has gone from, has moved to like a no grade system or no letter grade system or something like that. So there's definitely opportunities to highlight changes for this particular academic year. So those 2 applications are necessary. Then we'll need your academic transcripts and 2 letters of recommendation. One is your counselor recommendation, and the second is a teacher recommendation from a core subject, so English, math, science, etc. You are allowed to submit a 3rd or 4th or additional letters of recommendation, but we ask you to be very careful with those, or at least be intentional with those, to ensure that those additional letters of recommendation actually highlight something different than what the counselor recommendation has said or what that core subject teacher has said already. Then we have our essays or our writing section of our application that requires a personal statement. There's a number of prompts for you to choose from, and then a why Northwestern statement. So your personal essay, I believe we actually had a question about this in the chat section about what makes a Northwestern essay look great and what makes it stand out. What we're really looking for in the Northwestern essay is for you to have a voice. For you to take the opportunity to bring something to our attention or speak about something that brings you joy, to really be intentional and clear in that section. Thing to realize about the personal essay is that every other part of your essay is a representation of who you are. Your test scores, your grades, your recommendations, your extracurriculars, it's a representation of who you are. Your personal essay is a great opportunity for you to begin to speak directly to us as the reader of your application. You can talk about whatever makes you feel comfortable. You can talk about winning an award. You can talk about going on a trip. You can talk about identity issues, whatever gives us additional insight into your character, into who you are as a person. That's what we're looking for. So authenticity is important, clarity is important, and be sure to take advantage of that section. The other writing section is our Why Northwestern supplement. So it's about 300 words, I do believe, 250, 300 words. And it's a very simple question, why Northwestern? In that question, we're not asking you to restate to us some of the things that we've spoken about over the last 40 minutes, which is, oh, I love Northwestern because of the small class sizes and great opportunities to work with entrepreneurial innovation centers, et cetera. What we want you to do is you to take the time to speak to us directly about why, what specifically about Northwestern connects with you as a student. What parts of you and what parts of Northwestern combine to help you outline the clear path of who you want to be in the future? How will you be a great alum? How will you be a great classmate? How will you be a great researcher? Explain to us in a very short period of section, explain to us what specifically sparks your interest in Northwestern. It should be clear. So be sure to, again, take your time and take some moments to think about what that actually looks like. Our admissions process is a need blind process, which means that we do not look at a student's ability to pay or a family's financial need when determining whether or not we would like to admit a student, with the exception of international students. We are need aware when it comes to international students, which means that we do look at a family's financial picture in that sense. But for vast majority of our students who are not international students, let's say 90% of them or so, we're need blind. So we have a completely separate dedicated office of financial aid, which is committed to our Northwestern value of affordability. So we meet 100% of a family's demonstrated need, and we do so with loan-free financial aid packages, which means that you'll be getting scholarships and no loans as part of your financial aid package. When we say we meet 100% of a family's demonstrated need, what we mean by that is that we take the cost of attendance, And we then determine what your financial need is based off of some other application materials like your FAFSA and your CSS profile. And we determine what the difference is between the cost of attendance and that financial need. Whatever that difference is what we cover fully in scholarship. The university actually awards nearly $200 million every single year to undergraduate students and their families, to about 60% of the campus, so that they have access to a Northwestern. So we really are intentional in our effort to ensure that affordability is not a factor when a student and their families deciding to attend the university. In terms of deciding to attend based off of financial aid, every school, or at least most schools that accept federal aid, as we do at Northwestern, they should have a aid calculator on their website. I highly encourage you and your family to use this tool. It's a great opportunity for you and your family to look at some actual numbers. They can look at their prior tax reforms, and they can plot some numbers in this calculator, and it should give you a fairly reliable number to what your financial aid award would look like. Now, it's not guaranteed, so you can't like print out the calculator and come to the financial aid office and say, this is what it said. But we have worked with our financial aid office to make sure that depending how accurate the information you put in, you can get a reasonable estimate as to what your aid would look like at the university. So thank you, Candace. We're going to transition over to questions and answers. Thank you guys for listening thus far. So we're going to do this question and answer section for about maybe 10 minutes or so. So Candace, a question for you. What are some of your favorite Northwestern traditions?
I think I'll mention one that I haven't already mentioned, and it's called the Primal Screen. And this takes place the Sunday before every finals week, so 3 times during the academic year. And I think it's 9 p.m. or something like that, but just everyone on campus the Sunday before finals week will scream at 9 p.m. And it's supposed to be a kind of very hyperbolic way of releasing stress before the exams. I remember during my first year, going into winter finals, it actually happened to be my birthday, and I guess I just missed it the time before, and so I was walking around campus, and then I just passed the library, and I hear a massive roar, and I think that kind of goes into like the greater sense of community here at Northwestern, of that we're all going through this together. It's not just one person screaming; we're all screaming together, and so it's never a cry out for help. It's kind of a solidarity in that.
Love it. I think probably one of my favorite traditions is one you talked about earlier, which is Wildcat Welcome. It's a great opportunity, the beginning of your freshman year before you've taken a class, to see, these are all the people who you're going to be graduating with in 4 years. And that tradition of walking through the arch actually is replicated at in your senior year. So it's a great sort of community feeling there. Speaking of community, Candace, would you mind talking about how Northwestern sort of nourishes diversity and inclusion, particularly for Black, Indigenous, persons of color, and LGBT students as well?
Yeah, I think Northwestern does this in 2 levels. I think part of it is through the structure of the academics here at Northwestern, and also through the conversations that are facilitated here at Northwestern. And also a big part of Wildcat Welcome are conversations that we have. It changes roughly every 2 years. When I first was here, it was the True Northwestern Direction. These were conversations that we would have about race, about accessibility, and that way you're able to, as you're first coming into Northwestern, and really each incoming class is able to define what they want and how they want to hold their peers accountable for. And I think that's a really great way to set the tone for every incoming class. And then from there, I think a big part of how I think Black students, Indigenous, and LGBTQ students are cared for on campus is through the diversity of the faculty itself. So I think across the disciplines that I've been a part of, I've been very fortunate to be able to have mentors that look like me and stand for the ideals that I have. And so I never felt as though I had to trailblaze it as though my existence was radical, but rather I always had someone in my back pocket, whether it was just thinking off the top of my head, whether it's Mary Patillo in the sociology department, or my voice teacher, Nancy Gustafson in the voice department. Having these faculty members being able to speak on my behalf made me feel more comfortable, especially in an academic environment, especially as a first generation student. And going forth of after Wildcat Welcome, of how the conversations are continuing to be fostered. We actually, this is the moment I usually look up, I have a poster for it, but we have a series of speakers of contemporary speakers and thinkers that are brought to campus. And we're able to have these conversations, and these conversations typically sell out. One that I was actually part of was when Roxane Gay, a very prominent Black feminist writer, came to campus and actually had a conversation. This was, I think, during my sophomore year. And students were able to engage with someone that was highly regarded in their field, and being able to really tap into their brain and being able to figure out how can we take the bigger conversations that are happening in the world and bringing them to Northwestern's campus. Even furthermore, the scholarship group that I'm a part of, the Posse Foundation, has an annual retreat called Posse Plus Retreat. And each year we have a different theme. So even this past year, even though things were different, the past theme was State of the Union. And each of us Posse scholars are encouraged to invite other peers that are not part of our scholarship group, faculty members, staff members. And we have a conversation about taking the issues that are currently existing in Northwestern and in the world and figuring out ways to bring systematic change. So whether that takes place during the time that we're here, I've seen so much change and progress, whether it's the induction of the Asian American Studies Department or things like that, or things that I see happening in the future. I think that, like many other institutions, of course, there are issues, but I'm really fortunate that Northwestern is at least beginning the conversations as to how to resolve those issues.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing that, Candace. I think it aptly sort of summarizes Northwestern's approach to supporting our community at large. In that vein of supporting our community, one student asked a very great question. How does Northwestern help our students become the best versions of themselves so that they could become of service to others?
That's a phenomenal question. I think it's particularly my experience through the diversity of academic thought. I think when I first came to Northwestern, I thought to myself, I am a singer in a box. I am a writer in a box. And I think Northwestern does a really great job of revealing the context in which all of our academic specializations exist. Specifically in the English department, I'm really bad with the initialisms, but there's one initialism, I think it's TLC, and it roughly is a part of the English major requirement in which you're able to, or you are encouraged to take courses outside of the traditional Western literary canon. And it was through those courses that I discovered, I just didn't even know through my high school education, that there is a complete history of Black female writers in the colonies in America. I just had no idea. And taking that one class, a class that I probably would have never taken, encouraged an entire research project of mine of transcribing a little known Black writer's diary into a written digital text, because it had never actually been transcribed from the original primary text. And I think that's just one small way that Northwestern students, I think typically, whether it's through classes in their major or distribution classes, where you're pushed a little bit outside of your comfort zone, Northwestern students are encouraged to find the tethers between interdisciplinary styles. I think another good example is that people often ask me, how does the writing and the singing come together? During my senior year, I created a multimedia recital about the Black woman experience. And with that, I was collaborating with contemporary Black filmmakers and contemporary Black artists, and being able to use the platform that Northwestern has given me, because it's a phenomenal institution. It makes people take you seriously. Being able to use my platform to not only elevate my voice and other marginalized voices, but other artists like me.
Excellent. And in that vein of the boxes, as you're saying, that Northwestern sort of erases, can you talk a little bit more about your double majoring experience and that culture at Northwestern at large? What does double majoring look like? Why do people do it?
Yeah, I think the first thing I'd like to, there's a lot of confusion about the difference between dual degree and double major. So the biggest difference is that for me as a dual degree, when I graduate, you get 2 pieces of paper, each with their own line of them. So I have a Bachelor of Arts and a Bachelor of Music. And with that, dual degree students are required to finish not only the 2 separate majors, but also the graduation requirements for the 2 separate schools. So in the business school, I'm also required to take oral skills and theory. And in the College of Arts and Sciences, I also took language courses and first-year seminars that are required for the actual school. Versus for a double major, you have 1 home school and you'll have 2 lines on that 1 piece of paper. And so just for me as example, if I chose to get a Bachelor of Music with a double major in English, I wouldn't have had to take language courses or first-year seminar courses. And I think the reason why students do it, just because oftentimes students stumble into it. It's a very common thing I've heard of students saying, oh, well, I realized I only had 3 more classes until I finish the psych major, may as well declare it. And I think part of that is, 1, through the flexibility of the quota system, just that there are so many additional classes that you're able to take, and 2, through the distribution requirements that we have where students are encouraged to take courses in 6 broad areas. Oftentimes students kind of find their niche in a certain kind of field in which they're able to fulfill most of those requirements in a kind of singular discipline. But I think for me, the fact that most students pursue an additional specialization speaks to the depth of academic excellence for Northwestern. We're not just a great research institution. We're not just a great conservatory. I feel as though Northwestern is truly a jack of all trades and master of all in more ways than I physically have the capacity to specialize in everything. Students are able to find phenomenal specialists across all disciplines.
Excellent. I'm going to transition and break the ice, and that is an intentional pun. I'm going to talk about weather at the university. So we had a student who's from Long Beach, California, and she's concerned, or he or she is concerned. What is as someone from California, Candace, what is weather like here in Chicago? Can you survive it?
Yes, as I have my Long Beach Poly class ring on, but most definitely it's survivable. For me, when I first came here during winter, my winter jacket or my winter coat was a jean jacket. And I think the biggest thing is just actually getting the clothing for the environment. And if you don't have a winter coat and that is an economic burden, every year there are coat drives for Northwestern students to get a coat if they're from a warmer climate and don't have one. But it's very doable. In fact, our Norris University Center, which is kind of the hub of student life, will have lots of different kinds of events specifically in winter, just because they know that, if you're not used to a colder climate, it can get you a little bit down. So whether that's going to our university student for free hot chocolate and maybe some coloring classes, or if you're worried about just kind of the general walking about things, you're more than safe. We actually have a shuttle. It has a bad name, but a good purpose, called the Frostbite Shuttle. And anytime it gets, I think, anywhere below 40 degrees Fahrenheit, it'll run all from the residential buildings to the academic buildings. So even if it's not that cold, you just really don't want to walk, you still have that flexibility of feeling comfortable even during the winter.
Thanks. As a Chicagoan, I'll have to echo that it's absolutely doable. There will be a moment when you will hate it. There will be about a month at least where it's just going to be damp and cold and you're going to hate it. But you only have to go to your 4 classes a day, maybe, not even that, maybe just 1 class a day. So you grin and bear it for 15 minutes, getting from one building to the next, and then you go back and you have some hot cocoa with friends and you're fine. So speaking of sort of campus culture and on-campus activities, one student asked about Greek life. So can you speak about what that looks like on campus? And can you also speak a little bit more about arts on campus? You mentioned you're in acapella, how the acapella scene in theaters looks on campus.
Yeah, so first with Greek life, roughly 40% of the Northwestern population is a part of Greek life. For me, when I first heard that number, that felt a little bit high, but that number also includes multicultural affiliated Greek organizations and pre-professional ones. So a good friend of mine is in a music fraternity and another is in the business fraternity. But we do have our traditional IFC and PHA Greek organizations. And one thing I like to highlight is that actually incoming students aren't allowed to join a Greek organization until their first winter here at Northwestern. We like to say that you don't rush into rush week. You're able to figure out where your classes are, where the dining halls are, maybe join some student organizations before you join a Greek organization. And then from there, if you do choose to join a Greek organization, you can't, quote, just speak Greek. Every person in a Greek organization also has to have an additional extracurricular. Just with that is that, so if you were to ask a random Northwestern student, what do you do here at Northwestern? Probably the first thing they won't say is just a spew of Greek letters. But that's not to say that the Greek community isn't a bustling, thriving community. I think it's something that exists and is a wonderful sense of community for those in it, but it's also not impenetrable for those who aren't. For me, I'm not a part of a Greek organization, but I lived in sorority row for 2 years. So I think that might give you an idea of how inclusive it is. And then as for arts here on campus, there's definitely ways that you can pursue arts from an academic lens like I did, but also if you think to yourself, I played violin for 7 years, but I don't really want to major in it, there's tons of different opportunities for you, whether we have 2 different a non-major ensembles, one an orchestra and one a vocal ensemble that are taught by conservatory faculty members. And as well, as I mentioned before, we have now over 13 a cappella groups. And whether you are an engineer, an economics major, a social policy major, those are just a few of the majors that are in my a cappella group alone. In fact, our music director was a biomedical engineer. You still have the opportunity to audition and be a part of those communities if you like. And I think the biggest opportunity is our Northwestern Marching Band, which plays with our football and basketball teams. You do not need any experience from the Northwestern Marching Band. That's not to say that they're bad, but they are more than willing to teach you. And the most popular major within the Northwestern Marching Band is actually engineering, just to show you how inclusive it is.
I love that last tidbit of, their engineering is the #1 major for our marching band. That's fantastic. So we're going to wrap up in just a minute. And thanks to all the students out there who are submitted some great questions. I wanted, if we can sort of wrap up by describing, Candace, can we describe Northwestern and its students in a few words?
I think in a few words, I think supportive is the biggest thing. I actually recently, in the midst of the pandemic and Black Lives Matter movement, I actually created a blog post that went semi-viral that was not anticipated. And I thought that, okay, well, this happened, it's a pandemic. I don't want to, detract from any greater things going on, but I actually, in the process of this information session, we're getting people, even though this happened a month ago, people congratulating me and people asking how they can engage with my work and things like that. So I feel like no matter what my friends or your Northwestern community is primarily specialized in, Northwestern students really care. And that's something that is so special to have, not only just in the university setting, but especially now being a recent graduate, knowing that off the top of my head, I have people who are Fulbright scholars that are studying religious things that want to be the first person to know if I publish on my blog, or I have now consultants working at very phenomenal institutions that are the first people that whenever they're in town, they ask me to go get boba. These are the people that they'll stick with you for life, but in the best way possible.
Excellent. What an excellent way to sum it up. I couldn't agree more. I would love to echo that and support that by saying I also believe one great way to describe NU and its students is passionate. And I sincerely mean that. Passionate, all caps, super large font, bold, all of it. It's super amazing to know that we have great students who are academically ready to excel at college, but who also are, as we talked about at great length, who are passionate about what's going on outside of the classroom, whether it be marching band or social justice organizations in the city of Chicago. It's great to know that you're a part of a community where students are just excellent in every sense of the word. So thanks to everybody for tuning in. We hope this has been an informative information session. There's plenty of ways to continue to engage with us here on the YouTube channel. There's tons of content that's being put out every day. Feel free to look at some very useful video series that we've already released. Check out our website for additional ways to engage as well, like opportunities to talk with current students. So again, thank you everybody for attending. We hope it's been informative. We hope you love Northwestern, at least enough to keep us a part of your college journey. And enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for stopping by. Bye-bye.